All right, hello, good morning, good evening, and good night. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic because today what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be going over the dividend distributions for these three funds. We have ULTY, YMAX, and then YMAG. And the reason that we're going over these three funds today is because they released their ex-dividends. This was about a couple days ago or so. So you know what, the dividend, it might be new news, it might be old news, but what I want to do is I want to talk about these three Yieldmax ETFs, compare their stock price charts to see if their dividends lived up to the hype or not. And then I also want to go through their underlying holdings, because although YMAG and YMAX, their holdings don't really change, ULTY holdings do change because they write a cover call strategy under 15 to 30 different underlying stocks. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at that. I have a cool surprise for one of them too, which is kind of interesting. And I just want to give you my opinion on all these three stocks and how they perform. So if that does sound good, we're up to 4,667 subscribers. 240 subscribers in the last 28 days. I'm sorry guys, my upload schedule is a little bit inconsistent. I'm starting a full-time job and it is insane. I am working to the brim, but enough about that because we're making a video today about these three funds. Let's talk about ULTY first. We have 103% dividend, 103.5% dividend, which is that's insane. First of all, Yieldmax, we're used to seeing these crazy high dividends, but when you actually think about 103% for a stock or an ETF is insane. Now the dividend, what happened here? We could see that it actually dropped about 14 cents from the previous month. It was at $1.41, and it dropped to $1.27. And when we look at ULTY's kind of price history, we kind of made a video when it was back at $14 or so. This was like a little while ago on our channel. It's since then, it rose up all the way up to about $16.50 and then paid out this huge dividend once again. So it is back down to those levels. So honestly, a successful month for ULTY. It did kind of rebound a little bit off of the low that it had. We could see it was down to $14.22 April 22nd. So overall, that's fantastic. That attributes to about a 7-8% return in a month for ULTY. So if you bought at $14.22, absolutely fantastic buy. And when looking at ULTY's holdings, if I can pull that up here, you could see that in their holdings, they hold a bunch of different companies, AI, CGC, and they all depend on volatility. All stocks, for example, Coin, which is Coinbase, they are looking for stocks with a bunch of volatility. And one of them that they bought is Zim. Look at this. Zim is actually a stock that we hold on the channel. It is the stock that I made my last video on here, you can see. And Zim is a stock that ULTY is currently, I pulled the wrong thing. ULTY is currently holding because Zim is having a fantastic run up. It ran all the way up to about $18, $19 from $9 the previous month. So 100% run up in a month. And that is exactly what ULTY does. What ULTY does is it looks for stocks that are having great run-ups, and it looks to take advantage to the upside on those stocks. Now, obviously, when we look at the share price, it hasn't always done that. You could see that since its inception, it's actually trended down pretty hard, dropping about 25%, but it's currently making up with that in the dividend yield, but we really would love to see some appreciation in ULTY. We don't want to see the stock going down. We don't want another TSLY story. We want a stock that pays 100% yield. I know it sounds crazy, but also maintains. I say maintains would be a strong figure to try and hit for ULTY. YMAX. YMAX is a stock that, or an ETF that I actually currently own. Let's see how many shares I own here. I own 22 shares, roughly about $193 annually in terms of dividend income, which is pretty fantastic considering I only have about $440 invested in there. You can see the dividend yield about 44%. And the reason I love YMAX so much is because YMAX holds all the Yieldmax ETFs. I was going to say dividends. All the Yieldmax ETFs. So you could see here, these are all the Yieldmax ETFs that it holds. It holds AMD, Apple, Coiny, Facebook. And the great thing about this is you could see I highlighted the weightings right here. It's about an equal weight, about 5% or so in each. And the great thing about that is if one ETF has a great run up and one of them has maybe a not so good month, it kind of averages out. So what we tend to see in YMAX is we tend to see a pretty stable share price with a 40% dividend. And that's why going forward, YMAX is really going to be the Yieldmax ETF that I invest my money in. I might invest in a couple others, but I will not be investing as seriously as I would with YMAX because 40% dividend and a relatively stable stock price. And you can see over the past we'll say about 5 months or so, it's basically stayed the same as inception. And if we're getting a 40% return, that means we're a 40% dividend yield. We are receiving a 40% return on our investment. That is fantastic. Now, moving to the last one, which is YMAG. YMAG's holdings don't really change. Oh, YMAX, we went over the dividend yield, but we didn't even go over the distribution. YMAX keeps increasing their dividend distributions. Another thing that's fantastic about YMAX. I don't know if they're going to continue this in the future. All depends how the market performs. You can see it went from 63 cents to 73 cents, a dividend increase of 10 cents, maybe about 15% in percentage terms. So it was a good month for YMAX. Moving to YMAG. YMAG is the Magnificent Seven fund of option income ETFs. Basically, it holds the 7 tech funds in Yieldmax. AMZ, Apple, Facebook, you get the idea. TSLY's in there as well, NVDY. And you can see they have high weightings, roughly about 14 to 15% for each Yieldmax ETF. And once again, you're dealing with less Yieldmax ETFs. If tech has a great run, then YMAG is going to do great. If tech has a bad run, then YMAG could potentially suffer. And you know what? It does have a 38% dividend yield. Nothing crazy. Let's look at the last dividend, 63 cents. It didn't increase as much as YMAX did, but it still increased its dividend nonetheless, and it still pays out a 38% dividend with the share price relatively hanging about the IPO. So it's producing about a 40% return. If you were to have bought a couple, it looks like April 22nd was the day to buy. If you were to buy about a month ago, then you would have been up decently good on your position and still receiving that dividend. So these are the 3 funds that I wanted to talk about: ULTY, YMAX, and YMAG. Just to go over the stock prices a little bit. YMAX and YMAG are relatively stable. ULTY is a bit more risky, but in my opinion, if you were to pick up some ULTY at a great price, obviously you're getting a much better dividend. So it's really the risk versus reward here. I am playing it a little more safer with YMAX, taking a little bit less risk, but I'm still receiving a little bit less reward. So it all goes hand in hand. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you a little bit of an opinion and not just showing you what the dividend yields are. I hope it provided you guys with some value. If it did, please do remember to subscribe. We're up to 4,667 subscribers. I know we can get that up. So I want to say thank you guys for sticking around watching this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.